Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this week. I am joined by marketing and branding expert Jackie Zuk. We've had her on the show before, but I wanted to invite her back because it's been a while. And when you are trying to get your business to stand out and to become an expert in your field, I feel like things are constantly changing. There's always different things that we could consider or even relearn or listen to again to see if now we're at that point in our business where we're ready to take that next step. So thank you, Jackie, so much for joining me today.
Missy, I love being on with you. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
So, I know we've talked about like standing out. The first episode we did together, we talked about standing out in your industry, which I think is something that a lot of us want to do. But um, it can be complicated when we don't know how, or we might think that the service or the product should speak for itself. But in reality, I don't think that's the case. I've noticed, there's lots of financial advisors, there's lots of financial planners out there. But I feel like when I talk to potential clients and people, they really want to get to know me. And they want to know if I'm the person that they can trust that can help them reach their goals. And it's not so much like, what are the returns? What services do you offer? So I feel like as a person who left corporate, focusing on creating a personal brand was something that I tried to do even before I left. I got like new pictures taken. And I remember updating my corporate headshot, and people were like, "Where are you going?" Because there's no reason you would do this if you were planning to stay here. And so I wanted to talk to you as somebody who has helped businesses really transform. I've noticed your clients. It's hard to not notice your clients because they're out there and they're sharing value. So I was wondering if we could start by just hearing your perspective on what a personal brand actually is and why it's necessary these days.
Love it. Well, that was a great introduction, first of all. Thank you. So I think every single business owner that listens to this or people absolutely needs a personal brand. So a personal brand is how people see you online, or if they meet you in person, it's how you're perceived by others. And when you think of, I love using this comparison because it helps people understand it too. When you think of really famous people that have multiple businesses that are influencers in their world, like the influencer part of your business is your personal brand. So you can have multiple businesses, but you're still Kim Kardashian at the end of the day. You're still Oprah, but it's a name, it's a person. People know who those people are. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You know what I mean? So that's a really good way to kind of depict like what a personal brand is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think, and I think that we can think about, and I think the market has changed, like I think there's some people who are micro influencers. There's some people that have actually grown organically a following, and like they can now have certain opportunities in business to partner with people that are doing something that they care about, or it can help financially too for like when you get to that point. But how do most people start a personal brand? And you mentioned it being intentional, and it's
Mm-hmm.
how you want people to see you online, which you have
Mm-hmm.
control over, versus say if you have a reputation for being quiet around the office or something that people are telling you that they think you are. So how do people like, how do you define like what your brand is or what it should be?
So I think it's first of like, how do you want to be seen? Right? Like, what are goals you have? Like, how do you want to be seen? Because you want to show up as that person. So, like, prior to even when we started recording, right? Or just now, you talked about how you got new photos, right? So, like, you showed up as that person that you wanted people to see you as, right? So I think it's really important to like make a goal list for yourself, literally like a pros list, a pros and cons list of things that you want for yourself and things that you don't want, because whatever you want, you have to make sure that that's coming across in your visuals of everything you're putting out there, right? So I always like to think too of like the alter ego, like picture yourself as somebody else that you really admire and look up to, that you would like to become, and I feel like that's a great way to portray your personal brand, because all things are remixed in marketing and made your own. Things go viral because people repeat trends. You know what I mean? They're doing the same thing, but in their own way. So a personal brand, you can do something that somebody you admire is doing and make it your own, and that's what I love about that. So
Yeah, no, that's true because I remember like when when I first started working with my own clients as a planner, I was thinking about like all of the financial advisors online, and there weren't that many. But there were personal finance experts that were more approachable, even in their appearance and what they talked about. Like the language was different. And I remember watching people for a while who were doing the kind of work, or I felt like we're able to connect with people in a different way than the three-piece suit, very, polished conversation, like making sure that they sprinkled in some jargon just so people felt a little insecure about their own level of knowledge. And that I knew what I didn't like. Like I knew what I didn't want, but I felt like it almost took a while to kind of study those people out there. But a lot of us are on our phones or we're following people that we're constantly liking their stuff, or we're seeing what they're doing and thinking, wow, that's either they're sharing value, or or I like their style. Like something comes across where I think we can start to define what what we like and what we don't like. But I think starting with who you admire can be really helpful
Mhm.
because people then tend to even collaborate at some point with those people that they want to kind of share space with. So I think that's important that you mentioned it, not to look at like, oh, somebody's already doing this, there's no space for me.
There is space for everyone. Everyone.
Right.
Right? Like we even said earlier, it's like there's tons of marketers, there's tons of financial
Mhm.
experts, right? But like somebody's coming to you for you. So there's something about your personality that people need you versus your competition, right?
Right.
So yeah, I do.
So when it comes to like, all right, so I think that like creating a personal brand can like, it can help you stand out for sure. But how, like, when you stand out online, like, I'm not sure about the research, but I'm guessing I was driving my daughter home the other day, and she had two of her friends in the back seat, and they are all 9, 9 years old. And so they were talking about like a place that was opening up in the summer. And one of the little girls was just like, "Well, I think that this place has like 5 stars on Yelp for hot dogs." And they were like, "Oh, that sounds really good." And so we're doing a lot of research online before we talk to anybody these
Mhm.
days. So like, can you like, how much of your personal brand is it like, if you people are looking for us, right? Like they're doing their homework first.
For sure.
Are you noticing that like if you don't have a presence online, that like, I know you're probably not immediately out, but like it's harder to compete, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's missed opportunity. Like social media is free PR. It really is. It's like it's a shame if you're not maximizing on it because it's a free way to share who you are and get the word out with what you do. Like people have products and you can have amazing products, but if people don't connect to the story behind it, it's not going to sell itself. It's just not. People connect, like people in media, it connects to the PR side too. It's like PR likes the human interest, the stories. And if you're not telling a story that connects to people's emotions, they move on. They look for
Yeah.
other.
No, I think it's just changing. And I think about some of the like marketing experts that like, I know a lot of financial service professionals look at like books that were written in the 30s and the 70s, and like this is expert advice, but if these people had social media, oh my God, they would be using it. They would be on podcasts. They would be you I mean, this is free. And like we're reading books from people who used to like knock on doors and
Right.
like try to get
You
attention.
still need that. You still need all of it. At some capacity, like you need 50% of your business like out on the ground
Mhm.
in person. Like I
Yeah.
truly believe that. But 50% of your business now needs to be online. And
There
COVID
is this,
definitely
yeah, like this new way to reach like more people in a, in a way that they can just absorb it or consume it on their own time. It's just interesting, like to think about like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to do that because it's new or it's different or people might get sick of me, is something that I hear all the time. So I
sure.
just want to reinforce, like, how hard is it for people to get sick of you on social media? Like, how often are people actually seeing you?
So I actually think now the algorithms are continuing to change all the time, right? And that's just on every single platform. This is not just one. So I mean, for me personally, like I would say less is more because it's tasteful. Like I usually say like 3 days a week. Like you're showing up, you're making an impact, but like it's not overdoing it.
Yeah.
Like some people say you need to be posting multiple times a day on who has time for that? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
even people that want to full time make it their business, I give them so much credit, but like that's not my style.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody has their own style, which is why there's so many different experts, but they have to speak to their people, you
Yeah.
know?
And I love that you mentioned that because I think you have to be consistent and intentional again, like with everything that we're talking about. But like if you said, okay, 3 times a week. Now I know that I share things on social about that pace. I don't feel like it's taking up my whole life where I think a lot of people use that as an excuse. Like, well, I'm not going to be able to post 7 times a day, so I'll do zero. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that all or nothing thinking can really just hold us back
Mm-hmm.
from trying to put themselves out there. But I was curious as far as, for anybody listening, maybe who isn't a small business owner or isn't an entrepreneur, um, how much does a personal brand how much can it help anybody, even people who are maybe looking for a new job or who are thinking of switching roles? We all have a personal brand, whether we're in control of it or not, right?
Yeah, I just did a talk about this. Yes, if
Okay.
you are applying for a job, like how you show up to that interview is your personal brand. How you're impacting the person that's interviewing you. Like, that's why I always say, like, use people you admire. If you're really nervous for something, picture yourself in their shoes. What would they be doing in that moment? And I think this can be used in any area of your life, because also remember, like, people remember how you made them feel. So, like, leave them with that's part of your personal brand, like, make an impact that they remember you after meeting you, you know?
No, I think that could be, and I mean, again, like people are looking at what people do and who they are. So I kind of, I don't think that this is necessarily just for that person out there who's trying to like get more clients or sell more products.
Sure,
It's
for
really,
sure.
I think it's something that we're all going to have to be want to think about maybe even every once in a while, just to say like, okay, is what they're telling me they do consistent with what I've seen or
Mhm.
what I'm hearing? And so, what are some other ways? Like, is there ways that people can maybe create their personal brand, like maybe like in the future, like what they want to be able to do to create an impact? Like, is there a way for us to think ahead about how we'd like to, what we want to do and try to build our brand around that end goal? Maybe if it's something that we're really looking to like contribute to the world.
I would say so. I mean, I think it's like earlier what I said too about creating like a pros list, like a goals list of all the things you want to accomplish. And like in terms of like how to get there, don't worry so much about the how, like almost picture more of yourself of like I'm there. I just need to start making the process of doing things that I'm already there.
Hmm.
I'm a true believer in manifesting, and I know you
Yeah.
love it too. And I think that totally ties into your personal brand because it allows you to step into the role as if it's already existing. So you're already showing up as this person,
Hmm.
right? Which I love so much because I'm working on that myself, and I love to speak from like firsthand experience with that.
Yeah.
So,
So how has your personal brand evolved over the years? Like, tell me
so
more about like what you're doing now and how it's kind of shifted, since you've been in business and how personally like you're using these tools yourself.
for sure. So obviously, like when you first apply to jobs for the first time, like that was super nerve-wracking. And like you don't know what to expect. I moved from a state I didn't even know, right? So in that moment, I didn't even know what a personal brand was. You're nervous. Like I think it's totally normal to like put yourself out there and get experience, life experience. That's always my first form of advice. Like take chances and just accept it that it's an experience, you know? And then from there, obviously now, like I had multiple areas of my business, my podcast, my magazine, and like building brands around that. So the podcast is my face, right? Like your podcast is your face. Like people are listening because of Misty or because of Jackie, not because of your guests always. It's mostly because of the people they know and they like and trust, right? So that's also part of your personal brand, building that like and trust factor. And then with the magazine, like, yes, you're spotlighting people, but it's still my brand and people are reading it because of me. So my whole goal as a promoter or a PR girl is to tie my emotional connection to support other people. So whenever I'm sharing stories, I'm putting my emotion into it and being authentic. And I think authenticity is a huge part of building a personal brand, you
Yeah.
know?
Definitely. And I know like you have a very solid personal brand. I feel like everything about you kind of like before I met you, I felt like I knew you. And I think this is common. I think more of us probably do this than we realize. And then we're like, especially for a lot of us who maybe launched our business. I talked to so many people that launched their businesses in 2020 where we literally did not meet people in person because we couldn't, where we were like, I feel like I know you so well. And I think that that is such a it's so valuable to be able to kind of build that rapport with people
Mhm.
without having to without even having to like physically meet. Yeah, I mean there's just so much that we could do to like just let people know who we are, what we care about, what we believe, what we think. And then like I find that like you were talking about, I feel like it just kind of puts us in alignment with like the right people.
Mhm.
So like the clients that like you were supposed to be in front of, or the guests on your show, or things like that, that you really, you want people. I don't know. I feel like there's so much that can go into it if you're not just worried about how other people see you.
Right. Well, I
And
think like earlier, just like I just wanted to say, share this thought
mhm,
too. Like life experience allows you to build your personal brand better each
mhm.
time, right? Because you learn things you don't like as through life experience, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's just so true. Because like as you grow and evolve, so does your personal brand, so does your life, right?
Mhm.
Like it's just like you're gonna be drawn to things that you weren't prior,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
no, definitely. And do you feel like, I know that I've talked to some people who maybe they have a very valuable um service or product, and they want to, I don't want to say hide behind it, but they like to hope that that will just speak for itself and that people will know that it's valuable and then come find them. And I feel like that can be challenging in its own ways, especially when it's hard to stand out. I think when you're just like when it's just a service or a product, I think that's where the personal branding can get to be, helpful. But what are your tips for people who are maybe nervous or camera shy is one that I hear a lot. How do you help people kind of get past that in order to, to get the word out and let people know what they're doing?
Can I be totally honest? Because this is something that
Hmm.
I've done on myself. You have to do some internal work. You have to
Yeah.
do healing work. You do. Because I really feel that, like, in order to get to your next level, and like, no matter where you are, even if you just meditate on YouTube for like 5 minutes a day and you work on that and you build it, and then you move up to the next phase if it's hiring a coach or whatever it is, right? Like, we all need to work on ourselves to achieve our goals. And if you just put spaghetti at the wall, it's not going to stick because you're not passionate about it and you're just getting it up because you feel like you have to,
Yeah.
you know?
No, I agree. And I think that's like, I like what you said about doing some internal work because I feel like there's so much, so many of us are just like looking to find like somebody to do it, or like I'll hire a social media manager to then put up thing and that'll solve the problem when it rarely does. And I've worked with a lot of people who do this for a living that are like, no, we're going to need this from you in order to create the content that's going to connect with people. There seems to be no like magic solution
There
that you
isn't.
can
There isn't.
outsource
Right.
for this work. So you've helped a lot of people in different in different,
Industries and
industries show up. So what are some of the common threads you're seeing for somebody who has a strong personal brand?
so for sure, the people that come to me first don't think they need to be on every social media platform and they hate being on camera. They don't like doing videos. Like this is my ideal person, right? Like I can speak it. They all come to me with the same things. And I think the first thing is they are into spirituality for sure. You know what I mean? Like being open to that is so important because I mean, I think the people that are most evolved are spiritual. And I'm just being totally blunt here. Like you just have to be open. That's the first piece of that. I would also say like you have to have drive, right? Like you have to have big goals and drives, and you could be in any industry, but like if you really have big goals for yourself, like you can make them happen. You just have to be in the right mindset and work with the right people that you feel aligned with. Because I think what happens, a lot of people come to me after they get screwed over by other people. Really, that's like totally me being honest.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, like you experiment all different types of people
Hmm.
before you really are ready to step into that role. You need to kind of try all the things. And so
Yeah.
that's really my advice. Like you have to just try everything
Yeah.
and then you're ready for it. Like
Mhm.
you just step into that role. And most of the people, I think like that's usually the connection
Yeah.
that they have consistency. And then I mean now they're all places. They've been in media, they've been I mean they have a really good social media presence and
Mhm.
yeah, they're doing awesome.
Yeah. So when you become like, when you stand out in your field and you become somebody, and I know that I felt like as soon as I got like one opportunity, then I felt like more started coming and
Confident.
I was ready for it. And I think like, I remember the first time that like, I never called myself a personal finance expert until Student Loan Hero online did. And then I was like, I like that. All right, that's coming on board. So like how much of that, like when we think about the media and we think about the news cycle and all of the, there's just a ton of information out there that people can, that are reading and looking for it. How much can like, like your magazine, like when somebody sees themselves out there as
Let
an
me share
expert in
something
a
with you
resource.
too. So a lot of people, like I'm their first podcast or their first
Mhm.
magazine. So I
Yes.
like to think of myself as like the starter PR platforms for them to warm up to be ready for the big leagues. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like I think it's important to try and be everywhere. The smallest podcasts, the smallest magazines, the
Mhm.
smallest you don't know where those are going to lead you to, and they get you the confidence to show up for the bigger things.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that that can be like, it can be really helpful. And I don't know if it is somewhat of like that external validation, but I think that like when you're ready for that and like, you say yes to it and you don't think that there's like a better expert out there than you, then I think that it can be really interesting to see how that starts to like unfold with
right.
more opportunities because like I think that there's, if you have a good story and you can connect with people, I think there's a lot of different places that you could share it. So what are your tips for some people like who are like, okay, well, I don't really know, I think it would be interesting to go on a podcast, but like how much do I need to know or what do I need to prepare? Like how do you help people kind of get ready for that
Huh.
first branding experience?
So I usually say to them, like, pretend it's like you're on a phone call with them. Like, because that's usually what it is, right? You're just having conversation. It's so funny because I've had two extremes. One person needs all the questions, they write out all their answers. And I'm like, I don't want this to be scripted. Like, let's do this just for informal. Like, it will be great. So I think just warming up to it, whatever feels aligned to, if you need to write it out, fine. Like just, but I always say, like, pretend you're on a phone call, especially for a podcast, right? I would say more for like the magazine side. The one thing that I've seen a lot, and people just don't know what they don't know, is you need professional pictures. You do. Because when you're showing up in a media platform, a selfie ain't going to cut it. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just going to say the truth of where it is. Like, people want real professional headshots. They want real lifestyle images because when you take yourself seriously, media takes you seriously.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, no, I think that that's true. And that, I mean, I think we can probably see that, when we look at different, articles, like what are we seeing? Are these people, yeah, it's not somebody's cut out of a picture and you see like a half of them there. It is kind of like that first step. And is that something like you've helped people with that sort of, the photo shoots, the styling them? It's like when you're working with somebody who's maybe saying like, I want to kind of not reinvent, but maybe have some sort of image or brand. Again, like what are some things that they can do to start to kind of tailor what that might look like? And then, somebody like you who can help them then implement it. So what do you like, how do you kind of get them to the point where maybe they don't see themselves that way now, but they want to?
So I think this ties back to the same theme consistently of what I've been saying. Like a lot of people need somebody to look up to and
Yeah.
admire to because they can't picture themselves there. I've been there. Like I know what that's like. So it's like, is that even possible for me if I can't even see somebody who's already doing it, walking the walk, right? So I always say with that piece of it, like picture yourself as them, right? Like think about like what they do day to day. What is their lifestyle like? Like all of that stuff. Like what do they wear? Literally from like what they eat for breakfast in the morning, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
Like that's a great first place to start because it gets you excited. It gets you thinking and dreaming and thinking bigger. Um And then from there, obviously, yeah, like then we usually like come up with like a photo shoot. So a lot of people come to me too that have successful businesses, but they're ready to branch off and be on their own,
Mhm.
like be on their own, like as a personal brand. So their business is still running, but they want to be seen as an expert, right? That happens all the time. And I'm sorry, my phone, I thought I put
Mhm.
on do not disturb.
Yeah.
Um, so we start with a photo shoot. We direct like what they want to be seen as with that. So I create like an analytical, because the marketing person in me creates analytical goals for them of how they want to be seen as an expert. And then we create a photo shoot list. We create video ideas. So then they have video and photo content to use. And then from there, we implement it. We implement it into their social media, into their videos, into emails, on their website, and then to media. So I like to create that full service for people. So it's
I
more
think,
than just like a one stop, you know what
yeah,
I mean?
no, that I think that's so helpful. And you mentioned a lot of people that come to you have been kind of burned in the past by other things. And I think that could be because it seems like you're taking a bit of a more holistic approach to the whole thing. Because I'm guessing without everything else, like you can have a beautiful website, but you have to get people there,
Mhm.
right? And like,
So
I think
true.
a lot of times we focus on certain um, pieces, then looking at it like, how is this all going to work together? How are people, what is the experience people are going to have when they go from A to B, or like when they first see you, to get curious as far as then like getting on your email list, following up with them. There's so much. And is that where like the marketing side comes in versus like the branding? Like, what is the difference there if you're looking for help? Some people might need help with both, but what would you say the difference is between like marketing help and branding?
So brand is more visual. Brand is how people are seeing you. Can be some messaging, but I would say marketing is more the implementation of the messaging.
Good to know. And do you think that I mean, I'm guessing most successful businesses or ventures have both.
Oh, you absolutely need both. And as you grow and evolve, like companies rebrand, you need to redo a lot of it, you
Hmm.
know, because you're not the same person you started 7 years ago.
No, and it's interesting. I've had a few people back on the podcast, and none of them are doing the exact same thing that they were doing a year ago.
So normal.
There's
So
so much
normal.
that I think we change and we grow. And so I think if we have, you know, outdated everything, like it just doesn't reflect who we are. So is this a process that you'd say people go through like multiple times, or is it something that always just kind of can be a good base and then it might get tweaked, or there might be something that comes up that you're like, I need to shift focus? How often do you see people that are like, because I feel like there's a lot of people I talk to in business that are like, I want to burn it all to the ground and start over. But it might just be some small shifts that they're looking to do.
Right. So
But
I
do you
think
come across
small,
that?
so in an ideal world, small shifts are like branding photos that are new every year. Like once a year, if you can start with new branding photos every year, because once a year you are rebranding something. You've changed something you're offering, you're changing something you're doing, all that stuff. I would say like once every couple years, like 4 to 5 years, maybe change your logo, maybe update your website, you know, like maybe update the things that aren't day to day as necessary you need, because social media is such a day to day thing. And press and PR too is, I would say, is more like very quickly turnover. You know what I mean? So like you need stuff that's very current in a short period of time. So I would say that's my advice with that.
Yeah. No, I think that that makes sense. And I've definitely seen some people, who have been, using old photos, and then I meet them and I'm like, who are you? Typically, and like some of them in the real estate world, particularly, I've
Yeah.
been like, that is just so strange that you're still maybe using that like favorite picture. Like people want to know what they're like dealing with today. And that
Right.
could be we all
Also,
are
like,
aging.
right. No, but I mean, but to your point though, and also too, like people want to spend money on people who spend money on themselves.
True.
You know, because if
Mhm.
like I'm going to spend money with you, like I want to make sure that you feel good and confident in what you're doing and you're current in all the trends and all the things you're doing. I'm a true
Yeah.
believer in that because
No, I agree, because I think that we're looking like, especially if we're looking for help to get to that next level, and we're looking at service providers, coaches, people who are like, you want them to to like be do walking the walk, I guess you would say, when it comes to that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. And if
no.
they're telling you advice and not doing it themselves, I always get skeptical with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like there's been, there's been times where like, there's certain people where you're like, oh, but they spend so much time helping other people and not themselves. And I think like that used to be a badge of honor in the past, but I think now it's like that sounds like they might be burned out. And I'm not like I don't know. I feel like I look at that in a different way than like my mother would if she was, working with somebody who like never took care of themselves.
Right. Right. But
Yeah.
these are great points though.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think the world of business is definitely shifting, and I think it is kind of getting a little bit more personal. So, for somebody, say, who's never, maybe they've never thought about their personal brand. So, one of the things you say, start with that pros and con list.
And the icon, figure out like who
Yeah,
you admire.
yeah. And then what's next? Say they have all this ideas and this information in their head. Like tell me like if you were to meet with somebody who is just like, okay, this is what I'm thinking. What are some baby steps for people to do if they want to start to put themselves out there? Do you think looking for those smaller podcasts or pitching articles? Like how do you get people to maybe start to step into that role that they're looking to become?
So I am a huge believer in trying everything, trying it all, like, so to your point, try the different podcasts, like walk into a local radio station and see if they're booking guests, like they're still, to your point, you can still walk in places. Like it's not the same, but some places do take walk-ins, right? I would say like for the pitching, absolutely take a chance. Like a lot of times they don't get the emails because they get flooded with emails or it doesn't fit the timing, but it doesn't mean never. It just means no for now. Right. So I don't know, that sticks to me. So yes, I would try everything for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that I think that's helpful. And I think some people see other people have some success and they just think that there's maybe some magic that they're doing, or they got very lucky, or they're this or they're that. But I mean, I think that one of the things that's been helpful for me, especially with PR and media, is like I don't mind if I get crickets or a no. I'll just keep trying. Like,
Which I
and
think is
it's
amazing though. Like not everybody has that drive, to be
but it
honest with you.
Right, but I think it's interesting to hear from your perspective. Like they might not be getting these emails. They might
Mhm.
not be seeing it. Their deadline might have passed. They're moving on. Like I feel like there's such a fast pace where like I've certainly seen with a lot of people, even journalist requests, they're like, I need something by noon, and people can get them the most beautiful story at 3 p.m. But like
You missed the deadline.
it's too
Right.
late. So I think that that's something to like if you're starting out, like don't get discouraged.
Yeah. And
Like,
I also have something else to say, which I think is becoming
mhm,
more and more valuable. And this is when somebody's ready for it, but like having somebody by you, like an accountability partner, a coach, a mentor, whatever that is, will
mhm,
help you get there faster. Because if you have a support corner of
yeah,
people that are helping lift you up and supporting your goals, that will take you there 10 times faster. Because you
yeah,
can only do so much as one person,
no.
I think it's all part of the building, but I don't think it's a good long-term plan.
No, I think that's such a good point because especially like I was at a networking event recently with a bunch of people who were actually healers, and I was the only person that was in a more traditional role. So it was interesting to be in that group because a lot of them were like, "Oh, I know I need to do this," but I was just like, "Send me one post by the end of like the week because I want to see it." And so like I feel like sometimes having somebody else hold you accountable can be so important, especially when we're dealing with our own brains. And our brain is going to say, like, no, if you put something out there, like, what if people don't like it? And we're so socialized to want to fit in with the group and to not stand out.
It's so
That
true.
this is terrifying for some people at the beginning. And I
Yeah.
think that it's not like, what if I say it wrong? What if I get canceled? We're so afraid of all of these things that it's not going to lead to success if we just listen to ourselves.
Right.
So
That's why the other people are so valuable, right? It's a good point though.
especially the ones that want to see you win. And I think there's
You
more of them
only
out
should
there.
be around those people, by
Those
the way.
are the people like
Only,
you need to
yes,
be around all the
yes,
time because
yes.
like that can be like I know like for example, I love Jackie's posts. Everything she shares I think is valuable and she'll be like, "Hey, if you like this, please like it, share it or comment." And I was like, "Okay." Because it's good, And so I think that that is when you're just looking at maybe the people who've always known you or the people that are like, like why are you changing? I don't like it. Getting in different rooms can be super helpful.
And also, like, people don't know what they don't know. If you don't tell them to do something, they're not going to do it. A lot of people, you can't just assume. So to
Yeah.
your point, Thank you, by the way, for the compliment.
No,
But
you're
like, you
welcome.
don't tell them to like it, to comment it, they won't do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like they just
Yeah.
won't. So you have to literally dumb it down for people. Like, this is what I need support in. Like, if you really like it, please do something with it.
Yeah, and I think that's just like, I mean, most people who want to be helpful, they want to be a good friend or they want to be supportive, like will do that. But yeah, some people are saying in this group, like I post something and I spend so much time on it and I think it's wonderful and there's crickets. And it's just like, what was the call to action? Like, what'd you ask them to do? And it was like nothing. I just wanted them to read it. And I'm like, okay, like how do we get this in front of more people? And you're right, it's kind of just like, well, if you put this on there, or if you share it, like, and you're in our group or you're part of our network, like it's going to get, we're going to comment on it, we're going to like it, and then we can all help each other out, I think, in that way, which
Mhm.
is just so funny because most of us are just like assuming everyone's going to know what to do, and we don't.
Right. And also, like, I just want to touch upon this because this is a continuous trend that I see. Like, when you start putting yourself out there, whether people are pressing the like button or not, they are watching you.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is so important. Like,
Mhm.
remove the fact that you might not be getting a lot of likes or comments. Like, people are watching you, and the more consistent you are, the more powerful your brand becomes.
That's so true. There's plenty of people that have booked time with me that have never commented or liked or a single thing, and I ask how they found me, and it was social media. They're watching other things before they decide that they
Mhm.
want to reach out or make that next step. And usually it's not the person that asked the initial question. It's somebody else, but I think there's so many of us that don't interact in that way with social media and that they are there, but there's definitely like I think people are looking for us, all of us. And so that's where that personal brand can start to be so helpful. I know we've already I've almost talked 40 minutes now, but I would love for you to you've got some cool things going on. You always do. So tell people a little bit more about how to find you, how to follow you, and kind of what you've got going on for people who might be looking for a person like you to help them out.
Awesome. Thank you. So I can be followed at nextonscene.com or any social media platform, or at Jackie Zuk, ZUK. I am working on my next magazine, but Misty will be in my fall magazine, which I'm very excited about. So my next magazine will be out probably in the beginning of May. And I'm working on an event for the summer. So I will definitely keep you posted on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love when you share information. You're always so helpful. And I'm serious. Follow Jackie for her tips. She really does just pump out value. Like,
Thank you.
every week, there's something good. There's something that you could probably turn around and implement right now into your business or into your strategy, which I think all of us can certainly use. Like any reminder or little like piece of information. So definitely go follow her. And if you're looking at how you can start to maybe invest more in your own business, your own brand, please head over to mistylynch.com. I'd love to chat with you about your personal and your business budget to see where we can start to help you get to that next level so more people can see you, because I think there's a lot of work being done out there that people need. So head over to mistylynch.com and thank you so much for joining. We'll talk again next week.